Daith da, Ewi Nakan. Welcome to podcast number 37. Well, another week have flown by, and what a week it's been. Called the weather been blimmin' handsome down here, really have. Summer is definitely here, and of course 'tis half term, so it is perfect weather for the holiday makers that are down here. And one thing that you can't help but notice is the hedgerows down here this year. The flowers, they're beautiful. Obviously, I think there's this policy the last few years of not cutting the hedgerows and the verges quite so early, so you get the flowers all in full bloom. And it's been looking a picture. It really have. I did work most of last Saturday, and then 'twas home for a quick change, then up to England, up to Devon, to the home park, Plymouth Argyle Stadium, to watch Muse. And we had Royal Blood on first and then Muse, and 'twas fantastic. That was a really good evening. And of course 'twas Bank Holiday Monday. Me and Beth did do a run from Rock to Polseth and back to Rock again, then sat on the beach for a couple of hours, and then of course back to work on Monday. And again, 'tis that shortened week, but you're still going flat out. So we pretty much spent most of the week at the crematorium at Glyn Valley. We did on Tuesday, we was down Padstow Church for a funeral service, and you can imagine coming out of the church afterwards and driving down round the main street and that, 'twas packed. 'Twas even, as a word from last week, with holiday makers, but say the weather's fantastic for them. And then last night, I actually did go for another run by myself this time. I parked up at New Polseth there, and I thought I'd go out round Pentire Head and over towards the Rumps. I was going to go all the way to Lundy Bay, but I didn't start till late because I didn't leave work till late. So I was almost getting a bit benighted, really. So I didn't quite get to Lundy Bay. But for any of you that haven't been around that coastline before, it is fantastic. I expect some of you are friends with me on Facebook, and I did actually put some photos on last night because, like I say, just around that area, it is magical. And I always remember when I was younger, my Uncle Sam was still living then. He was Sam Truscott. He was a St Austell Truscott. He married me Aunt Joyce, and quite often he'd trek over and he would actually do a lot of fishing off the Rumps. But I did take some photos, you could see them. But also there, obviously there's the plaque, which some of you most probably know, where Laurence Binyon wrote For the Fallen. And they've actually put a nice plaque there now. And I actually did a bit of research because I thought, well, is he from down here or no? I mean, Binyon isn't really kind of a local name, but he was actually born in Lancashire in 1869. And back in, 1914, he was down here staying. And of course, World War One was on, and I think he was affected by that. And so he wrote the poem For the Fallen. And of course, there's just a few lines of it that are read out every year at Remembrance Sunday, and I'll read them in case you don't know what I'm on about. I'll read it now. I hope I do a good job. I don't want to sound like Pam Ayres really reading it, but here goes. They shall grow not old, as we that are left grow old. Age shall not weary them, nor the years condemn. At the going down of the sun, and in the morning, we will remember them. So there we are. I think looking at the photo I took of the plaque, it looks like the plaque was put there in 2003, I think. But if you out that way, it's in a flat walk, mind. I mean, I run most of it, but there was a few bits there I walked because it was brave and steep. And also there was a few bits of the pathway that was quite close to the cliff's edge. And I am a little bit clumsy when I'm running. I do trip over in and out. So I did watch me step, I must admit. But if you can get out there, they have actually put a bench there close to the plaque where it said that he was sitting down when those words come to him. So 'tis well worth the effort if you can. Now, as some of you might remember from a previous podcast, back at work, we had a bit of storm damage a month or so ago, and we got these two real big cast iron finials at the top of the chapel there on little towers, and well, they've been there forever, really. I think the chapel was built in 1875, or that's when it was officially opened. And, of course, we had really bad weather, and one of they actually blew off. And in case you hadn't heard the previous podcast, he actually went back over. He damaged slates in the main roof, then bounced onto the office roof and damaged slates, and then damaged the wall down below. So, of course, we've had to get scaffolding in. The roofers got all that organised for us, and it was a case of mending the roofs. That wasn't too bad, but the main thing was getting right up to the top to see if they could, reinstate the other finial. I mean, it was smashed to pieces, and we were just so lucky it never landed on anybody's head, because it would have killed them instantly. And also to have a look at the other one to see what state that was in. And they went up, and it was okay. But there is that worry. Now that one's come down, it's only be a matter of time. It might not be at 10, 20 years or whatever, but sometime that other one is going to come off. And I don't think I could live with myself if that one come off and it hit somebody. So we made the decision that the second finial would be cut off. So there isn't one either side now. So when he was cut off, the roofers brought it down, and we've got it inside now. And I'm recording this now on the Thursday evening, but either tonight or tomorrow I will put a photo on our RJ Bray Facebook page of me holding it. I mean, 'tis cast iron, 'tis heavy as hell, really. But what I'm going to try and do is somehow put it on a stand or something that we can make a display of it in the chapel for people to see. Dear Joe Skinner, he did give me a smaller finial when we moved in the chapel, and I've got that one on the wall already inside. When you go in there, little reception area, he's over there on the right hand side, and Joe kindly gave me that. But I don't know where that finial come from, to be honest. But this one, he's 3 or 4 times the size of that. And, well, I don't know. It'd be too heavy to hang on a wall. So I think we're going to have to try and make some sort of stand. But it's definitely interesting, to look at. Also, as well as that photo, me mate Martin Langdon, he went up the scaffolding. Now, I don't know if he went all the way up to the top or no. I'm not too sure about that. But he did a lovely video. He filmed it this morning. And he just swung around looking over the bridge and everything. And I'll put that video on as well for you to look at. But I had the chance to go up there myself, and there's no way, because if I go anywhere I just get drawn to the edge and I want to jump. So I thought I ain't going to risk that. But I'll put that video on so you can have a geck at that as well on our RJ Bray Facebook. So I thought for the rest of this podcast this week, I'd just talk about a few ways how funerals have changed over the years through technology. And, with the computer, the internet and everything has been the main thing. And it's like, for example, when I started with Dad, most services you had in church, not everybody had service sheets. Back then, a lot of people used in-books. But then if you did want service sheets, it was a trip down to Peter Chapman down at Wadebridge Printers, and he would set them up for he'd drop everything else so that you need a quick turnaround, because back then funerals were done a heck of a lot quicker, within 4 or 5 days at the longest from when somebody passed away, you would have the funeral. Well, of course, nowadays, pretty much all printing now is done on computers, and we do I would say 95% of the printing of orders of service in-house, which is good really, because you're always struggling with perhaps last minute changes. So we try to not print until the day or two before. I mean, sometimes celebrants or clergy, they can't get back to in time, or families want to have a bit more time to make decisions. So, by doing them ourselves, you got that luxury that it can be done last minute if needs be. But talking about hymn books and that, there is one religion where we do have services with them. You notice there how it's changed, because in these services, the elder would kind of lead the service, and the congregation, they'd obviously be following, and he would then quote, say, John 14, 1-6 or something. He would quote a passage from the Bible. And the rest of the congregation, they, with their Bibles, because they all had their Bibles, they'd all be flipping through, so they would be there reading it along with him. And it was a lovely sound as they'd be rustling through their pages. And of course, where it's changed now, a lot of them actually turn up with iPads. So that's one thing that I did notice. And we've got a very good friend who's a vicar, and he does quite often use his iPad for taking services as well, which is good. But I think there's been a time or two where perhaps his iPad hadn't been charged up perhaps enough as it should have been. But that's another story. Another thing which has made our life so much easier is the mobile phone. Because when I started with Father, there wasn't such thing as a mobile phone. When we was at home, I think I might have said on a previous podcast, you couldn't just go out and divert the phone to your mobile. You perhaps just have one or two phones initially, phone numbers you could put it through to. And then as technology went on a bit further, you was allowed to use like 5 different phone numbers that you could put your phone through. Well, of course, now you're always in touch. The phone is diverted all the time. And people ring me, message me, text me all through day and night, which is brilliant, really. People can always get hold of me. But we did have bleeps for a while as well, that if Mother was home manning the phone and me and Father was out, she could then bleep us, and then we'd find a phone and ring back. For a while, actually, on our cars, we did have CB radio, and we'd have our own little channel. So if Father was out and I was back at the office and we had a call, say no mobile phone, so I'd just call up on the CB radio and say, your Father, can he find a phone box and give us a call back? Like, you wouldn't discuss anything else publicly over the phone, but that was handy for a while too. That was back in the good old days when, CB radio, that was quite a thing, quite very popular down here years ago. Another thing that have really made life easier, more so on longer journeys really, is the sat-navs. And I know in years gone by, I'd always be a bit hesitant if we had funerals up country. It was quite a headache, really, because you'd have to sit down with the map and try and work out, well, how long's it going to take? What's the best route and everything? Well, now with the sat-navs, it is so much easier. And I can't remember if it was last year or year before. I don't know. Time goes so quickly. But in the last couple of years, we had a burial at Macclesfield, and I would have been very hesitant about doing that 10 years, 15 years ago kind of thing. But it was brilliant. You just, get your sat-nav up. You can work out pretty much to the minute. We allowed a bit extra time in case there was, hold-ups or anything. But you can work out your routes, your timings. And it was a long day that day, I must admit. And but we did, went up, did the burial at Macclesfield in the cemetery. And actually, while I was there, I knew that Ian Curtis, he was the lead singer of Joy Division, brilliant group. And he died tragically. I think he was only 23 when he died. And I knew that his ashes was there in the cemetery as well. So I tracked they down. I did take a plectrum of mine and just laid it down. There was lots of other little trinkets that have been laid down as well. So, sorry, I went off course there a bit. But so that makes life so much easier for us. I think the biggest change in the funeral profession as far as technology goes was COVID-19. And I think it changed everybody's lives, in many different ways. And there were such things like, because there were lockdowns, you couldn't go out. We noticed that people were putting death announcements in newspapers less and less. And that's something that hasn't really recovered that much. You still get a proportion of funerals that do go in the papers. But I say most of them now, not everyone still wants a funeral publicised, but I'd say perhaps 90% of the funerals will go on our website, and most of them, I'd say about 75% perhaps, go on Facebook. I mean, not everybody likes Facebook. I think there's good and bad points to Facebook, but I do think that, putting obituary notices on there is a fantastic way of letting family and friends know that someone has passed away. It just takes, just a few family members to share it, and you've covered a big section of your local community. I think we must have got about over 5,000 people now that follow our Facebook page, and it definitely has that, and our website has definitely become the main ways now that people do put announcements out there if someone has passed away. Mind you, there are times when this technology can give you a bit of a shock. And I know end of last year, I was lying in bed there, must have been 6:30 in the morning, and my phone started pinging. I thought, crumbs, what's all these messages coming through? And it was real tragic, really. One of my friends I'd known since, I think we met in Talltrees back in the 1980s, and he was called David Bray. In fact, I think we even had the same middle name. I'm sure he was David John, the same as me. And we had a mutual friend back then that we was in Talltrees, and he was with Dave, and he saw me coming towards him, and he started grinning, and he said, "David Bray, meet David Bray." So we kind of, kept in touch ever since then, sort of thing. And tragically, Dave passed away end of last year. And of course, we got mutual friends. And what happened was the news had got out, and a few of my friends, who were also friends of Dave, put on their R.I.P. David Bray. So, of course, you can imagine what happened next was that people that only knew me would see that. And, of course, the word was going around town that I'd actually passed away. Now, I'm sure Dave would have found this very funny. I'm sure he would have done. But I noticed that my mates that had done it quite quickly, they did take the post down. But I did see a chairman of one of the local sports clubs here in Wadebridge afterwards. And he said he had the shock phone call from one of the club to say that I had passed away. And they was actually getting ready. They was going to do a minute silence for me at the match on Saturday. But so that's one way that, technology, this type of technology can go wrong a bit. But very sad news. That was very sad. Mind you, these sort of rumours would happen years ago too. I remember back when Gordy was working for us, we had a few phone calls, people ringing up in the morning, is it true Gordy have passed away? And I thought, well, we haven't heard nothing. I thought, no, it can't be right. We would have heard by now. And I thought, he's driving the car for us this afternoon. So I thought, I'll give him a ring. So I rung up. So Gordy answered. I said, get on, Gordy, how we knacking? Yeah, fine. Yeah, why, what's up? I said, well, I thought I'd just better let him know that the rumour's going round town that you've passed away. So he said, all right, okay, he said. So that was that. So we had a little bit of a laugh about it. Well, of course, then he walked to work. And when he come over Bridgend, he said, I'm so glad you rung and told me. He said, because I've had some funny looks coming over. Anyway, sorry, I digressed again then. Sorry about that. So another thing that changed with COVID was registration. Whereas normally you'd have to go to the doctors, pick up a death certificate, and then go to register. Through COVID, all that changed, and it was done by email, and then people could register over the phone. Now it's gone back, all the restrictions have gone and everything. part of it has still stayed. So a doctor, you haven't got to go to pick up the certificate anymore. The doctor can still email it to the registrar. But at the moment, you have now got to go to the registration office to register. But I know that there are campaigns going ahead to try and bring back where people can register over the phone. And I know how easy that was, because when poor old father passed away, we could register over the phone. So it saved us traipsing into Bodmin, or if Bodmin was busy, we could have had to have gone to Snozzle or Truro or wherever. But, we was able to do it in Mother's front room. So hopefully they are trying to bring that back. And of course, with COVID-19, when we were restricted to just a small number of people being allowed to go to funerals, that's when live streaming of services really took off. And they're still quite popular now. Obviously, I say there's no restrictions, but there's always a few people that perhaps can't make the funeral that really wanted to watch it. So it's down to the family. So the family want to. The crematoriums, I mean, they do charge a fee for doing this, where they pay a one-off fee, but then a link gets sent out to the family and they can forward it to friends, family all over the world. And they can either watch it live, or there is an option to keep it up on this link for an extra 28 days. So that if it's a different time zone or somebody's working, they can go home, just click on the link, and then they can, watch it over the next few weeks. And then on top of that, they can also have a download if they want to. Like some people do like to have it as a keepsake, to look back over. So that's another option. And I know when Father's funeral took place, we was kind of in a funny we was in limbo a little bit, really, because restrictions have been lessened a bit, but not 100%. So we was allowed, I think, you weren't allowed no more than 100 in church. So then we had the PA system outside, but also we had our dear friend Chris come and he live streamed it for us. And that worked fairly good. The trouble is the Wi-Fi in Eglisale, it is a bit touch and go. So he was having to use different networks and everything. And of course, just before the first hymn, I think it crashed and it didn't come back. I think I started doing the eulogy, and I think you do miss the first minute or two of my eulogy. So luckily, Chris was recording it as well. So when he went home in the evening, he sent me the full recorded version, and we then put it on our RJ Bray website page. So I think you can click on there. I think it's even still on there now somewhere. So you can actually watch all of Father's funeral. And I think because of the problems we had that day, unless a church has got Wi-Fi, we don't risk the 3G and 4G so much now. So if it ain't got Wi-Fi, what will happen is Chris will record the service and then he'll whip home, and then a couple of hours later we'll have the link, and then we send the link to family and friends for them to forward so that anyone can watch it. And then I think the other thing that have really changed is donations in lieu of flowers. And before COVID, it was pretty much cash at the funeral or checks being sent to us in the post. And of course, after COVID, we still get a little bit of cash at the funeral. Very rare now we get checks through the post because, as time goes on, very few people got checkbooks now. So we use this donation site called Memory Given, and people can click on there. It is so easy. You donate using your credit card, and the money goes straight to the charity. And then, you can actually put a little message on there and everything, which the family can see. But that's something else that, has changed with technology over the last few years. So I think that's about it on that, really, technology. There's nothing else I can think of immediately. I mean, if I do, I'll put it on in future podcasts. But I was thinking for me Cornish dialect word of the week. I think it is one that I don't think I've done yet, but it is one of the most common used down here, the most well known, And of course, that is directly. And it means that if somebody says to you, oh, when are you going to do so-and-so? You say, oh, I'll do that directly. Now, directly will mean in the future. Now, it might be 5 minutes. It might be an hour. It might be 5 hours. It might be tomorrow. There's no time limit on directly at all. We're pretty laid back down here, but you know that it will be done sometime. It'll be done directly. And I think for me Cornish language bit of the week, I think this week I'll do the phrase "How are you doing?" or "How we knacking," which in Cornish is "Fat Laguinness." So there we go, "Fat Laguinness." And then if you're lucky, and if I remember, I'll give you the reply to that in next week's podcast. So I think that's about it. There we go. So I hope you've enjoyed it again. And all being well, I'll see you next week. I hope this weather will stay like 'tis. And I wish you well. Have a good week. Dugenas. Carnobus Ficken.